Tonight.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chicago Sports Tonight. I'm Cassie Carlson alongside Tina Wynn, and we have a very special show for you today, celebrating National Girls and Women in Sports Day.
Yeah, tonight on Chicago Sports Tonight, we're featuring women who have paved the way in the sports world and continue to build women up.
Later in the show, I'm going to tour a women's sports bar that's opening in Wrigleyville. But first, we want to welcome in someone who's been a fixture in Chicago sports since the 90s. Started back at CLTV. She was a sports reporter at WMAQ. She was the first woman to host a sports talk show in Chicago on Sports Huddle, and now she is the host of Chicago Bears postgame show and Peggy and Dion on ESPN Chicago. Peggy Kusinski, thanks for joining us.
Hi, ladies. I thought I was supposed to be retired. And when I hear you say all these things, I did, and that I'm still doing. I don't know what my problem is, but it's great to be with you on this wonderful, wonderful day.
Peggy, so excited to have this conversation with you, and we're going to get into your career just a little bit later. But first, of course, we got to talk some football about the Chicago Bears coming off the season that they had, exceeding expectations. As someone who grew up here in Chicago and covered the Bears, what was this season like for you hosting the postgame show?
You know, I think this was the most fun that I have had since the Lovie Smith era. The locker room back then with the Brian Urlachers and the Lance Briggs and Olin Kreutz, Rex Grossman, there were so many personalities, and every day there was a new story, and it was fun to cover them, and it was exciting. But that was a defense-dominated team. This year, it was unlike anything I had ever experienced in my 30-something years covering the Bears, because it was offense, and to see such high scoring and exciting quarterback play, this was a first for many of us here in Chicago, and I'm really excited about the future.
Yeah, a couple things that you pointed out there. One, the locker room, because every guy at the end of the season said that they're going to miss this group of people. And I don't think they had the big personalities like they did back what you were talking about, but just like good, solid people in there with the Cole Kmets, the Jalen Johnsons, Rome Odunze. Like, people will be missed in that locker room for sure. And then you mentioned the quarterback play. And as someone who has seen a handful of quarterbacks, as the Bears have never had a true franchise quarterback, of someone like Rex Grossman, Kyle Orton, you go to Justin Fields, like the list goes on and on and on. What was your assessment of Caleb Williams in year two and first year under Ben Johnson?
Well, we went into the season saying that the only thing that's important this year was the development of Caleb Williams and his relationship with Ben Johnson. And I think after the bye week, they had such an early bye week, and there was still a lot of trepidation about how this offense was going to gel, and how was Caleb reading his defenses and getting through his progressions, the snapping the ball, getting it out quickly, running the huddle. There were so many questions still around week 5 that, you know, I thought, okay, but we have to be patient. We have to be patient. Wow, did they turn it on? When the light bulb went off, it went off, and you saw this team rolling, and we'd like to see it for an entire game, not just a fourth quarter. But I think that there is definitely enough there to say they are on the right track. Caleb made leaps and bounds improvement, and Ben Johnson just came in guns blazing. That there's no doubt that he is running this team.
And Ryan Poles has some tough decisions to make this offseason. The Bears have some constraints with their cap space. We saw Nahshon Wright and Kevin Byard both have interceptions. Would you like to see the Bears bring back Wright? And would you go with Byard or Brisker?
Oh, that's what's interesting. Like, who's going to give them a hometown discount? It's always the biggest issue after a team is successful. Now, I know they didn't win it all, quite obviously, but making it to the divisional round of the playoffs is still successful. Guys want to get paid. They know that their time is limited in the league. So even that sliver of success that the Bears did have, you're still going to have to deal with these guys. So who's most important? I still contend that if you look at what's going on with Seattle and the Seahawks and what Mike McDonald has done with his team, and the pass rush is good, but it's not elite. We're not talking Micah Parsons. It all starts everyone thinks it starts in the front end with the front four. It really starts with your defensive backs, your safeties, and your nickel. That is the most important because Dennis Allen will be able to move them around. You keep that nickel on the field as much as you can. He is another pass rusher. So with that being said, I think you have to go with the youth. I think that I love Kevin Byard. How do you pass on an all-pro? Well, teams only get better when they're willing to let guys go in their prime and continue to bring in young guys that can do the same job.
You mentioned the Seattle Seahawks, of course, Sunday, Super Bowl 60 between the Seahawks and the New England Patriots. Who are you picking in this one?
I think the Seahawks just look unbeatable. If Drake May is able to go in, a young quarterback like this and win it all, I mean, what a job that would be from Mike Vrabel. I think we saw nerves come out in their championship game, and I think that the conference championship, and I think that the way the Seahawks are playing, I like the veterans that are on that team. And I know we're all talking about offense this year in the NFL, but boy, I just like the way that Seahawks defense plays. And I really think that when all else fails and your nerves on the big stage like that, rely on your defense.
Peggy, one more Bears question before we get into your career. You mentioned Lovie Smith, and every time people talk about Lovie Smith, they talk about how mild-mannered he was as a coach. And I think players said they only heard him swear like once in the locker room. That was a big deal when it happened. But then you see Ben Johnson, who's become this like character in Chicago. What's like the contrast like watching those two, but both have success in different ways?
I actually think Ben Johnson is mini Mike Ditka.
Ooh.
He is so fiery, just like Ditka was. He can challenge you at the podium, just like Ditka did. He can charm you at the podium, just like Ditka did. And quite frankly, he doesn't really give a crap what anyone thinks of anything he says or what he does, just like Ditka did. So I would not compare him to Lovie Smith, who, yes, he was very mild-mannered. I would compare him more to Ditka, and I know that that's like blasphemy. It's like, you know, the coach here in Chicago. But I truly think one of the reasons why the fans really love Ben Johnson is because they have been begging the McCaskies to hire someone like Mike Ditka for so many years, but on the offensive side of the ball, and lo and behold, they found him. Now, let's see if he can sustain success, which I'm very hopeful that he can.
Let's get into your career now, Peggy, because you've covered it all in the city of Chicago, numerous championship teams. You've done also a lot of great investigative work. It took you 8 years to get your first on-air opportunity.
It did.
If I read that right, yeah. We often talk about the highlights, right, the good stuff, but what makes the journey worthwhile is pushing through adversity, some of those tough times. What are some of your defining moments in your career?
Well, I remember when I was an intern at NBC and here in Chicago, and I went to a sportscasters camp, and I was the only woman at the camp. And I just remember them saying to me that you just keep your eyes forward, just keep moving forward, and things will fall into place. Oh Lord, that picture of
we need
Carey.
the story behind that eventually.
That might need a little explaining there. But I think that what happens is you have to take advantage of the breaks that come your way. And when people do help you out, you have to just like barge open that door and not be afraid to make mistakes. I think that's the biggest thing, that we're so afraid to make mistakes, and then we're too busy trying to get in everything that we know. And I think, as I say, we as women, I think it's a common mistake to constantly try to just throw a million facts in there, and instead of just telling a good story and telling it, I think, with personality. And those were the best pieces of advice that I got, was to use your personality and just connect with the audience.
Yeah, Jeannie Morris was considered the first woman in sports in Chicago. As someone who grew up here, was the visibility of her and other women kind of opening the door, or your eyes to this could be a possible career one day?
You know what's funny, Cassie, is I didn't know Jeannie. She was on air in the 80s at CBS in Chicago and NBC, and I was actually at college, and so I didn't really see her. I may have known about her, but not really. I had a poster of like Bob Costas hanging up on my wall in college. Not until I got to ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut, working as a production assistant, and I got to work with Robin Roberts, and coming back full circle about being able to do your homework, tell stories, and use your personality. That was Robin Roberts. And to work with her at ESPN in Bristol, that really, for me, was kind of what catapulted me into wanting to be on air. There weren't, I remember one day walking into my brother's apartment in college, and he had on the TV and the guys were all watching TV, and they didn't turn around and look to see who walked in. And I thought that was kind of rude. And I said, "What are you guys watching?" And they said, "It's this new channel called ESPN.
Wow.
It's all sports every day, all day." And I looked at the screen, and a woman by the name of Gail Gardner was sharing the anchor desk with, I think it was like Tom Mees or someone. And I immediately went and looked up who she was. And I think she was from the East Coast. And I said, I had never seen a woman sharing the anchor desk in sports like that. And that year in college, I went and switched over to radio, television, and just concentrated on all sports. So that was really, for me, like, if you see it, you can be it.
Sports is obviously often described as a very male-dominant industry, but there are men who have genuinely showed up as allies and advocates for us. Who were some of those men that supported you along your journey? And just as importantly, how has a sisterhood among women in sports shaped your experience as well?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I think for the men, John Saunders at ESPN, the late John Saunders, he had told me once when I told him that I thought I was going to leave ESPN in Bristol and really pursue on-air career. And he always gave me such great advice. And he said, just don't tell them what you can't do. No guy ever says, "Oh, I can't anchor. Oh, I can't, do a live shot." Oh, instead, they just take the job and you figure it out how to do it. So John Saunders was great. Once I got to Chicago, I have to tell you, I was really, really lucky. A bunch of the old Bears players, the '85 Bears, who you would think would be really tough, they were really good to me. Like they really, I think because I used my personality and my sense of humor a lot, they really gave me the respect that I needed. And once the audience saw that, same thing with even the older guys from like the Blackhawks, the Stan Mikitas, they were really, really good. Cliff Coral, really good in granting whenever I would ask for interviews. And I thought it was really important back then in the 90s that if the stars and the big names gave me an interview, then the audience would think, well, wow, they must respect her that they're doing the interview. And that went a long, long way. And I think it was really the old guard that you really would not expect to be really great with women in sports were really fantastic. I will say, the women were not so fantastic. And I'm going to give the excuse why. There was always just one of us. And so it was super, super competitive. We didn't always lift each other up because we were afraid that, they were going to come in and take our job because, nobody was going to hire two women. And I have to say, until NBC hired Paula Ferris, and I thought my job was gone. And they said, "No, your job is fine." And we had two women doing sports. It was the first time ever in Chicago that happened, radio or television. And it was huge because it meant that there was room for all of us. And I think that that's what's really important now is that we realize that we all look different. We all talk different. We all deliver different. And we tell stories differently. And I think that's what's key is when you look around, there's room for everybody.
I think people want to hear that women have been treated differently, but similarly, like I haven't really had that experience. And Peggy, you said something like, if you prove that you're credible, people are going to respect you. And I'll never forget a moment that you actually were in the press conference room. I think it was last season. We were talking to Nate Davis at the podium, and there was some drama around him. And you asked the most obvious question to him, and I looked and I was like that's just doing the job, and that's what you need to do. So from a confidence standpoint, like when did you feel like you could walk into a room like that and just like get what you needed without having any fear of like someone might think of you?
Well, I think, Cassie, I used to hear sometimes we would have female interns and they would talk about all the athletes that they were friends with and hanging out with. And I remember thinking, wow, like for me, being a journalist came first, like not trying to be friends with the athletes and hang out with them. I can honestly say I have become friends with quite a few of the athletes that I've covered. But we know that when you met me, what was I? I was a reporter. And so therefore I will first and foremost always be a reporter to you. And so I think once we understand that we both have jobs to do, I think that was really big for me. And I think that when women realize that they have a job to do and you do your job first, and just like anything else, if you become friends with, the people that you're covering, there's nothing wrong with that. And I remember people saying like, oh my gosh, that's so wrong. No, it's not. And let's not pretend that it doesn't happen with the guys. I had Andrea Kramer. I was a field producer for her when she was at ESPN. And she was doing a story in Chicago. And it was the first time that I had ever been out to dinner with a team executive from, I think it was with the Bears, I'm trying to remember, or maybe it was the opposing team. Anyways, we were at dinner and I just sat there and I watched how she had this conversation with this team executive throughout dinner and was able to be professional and yet, get some information. And that taught me so much that I didn't have to be afraid to be professional. And at the same time say, hey, I'd like for you to give me some information like you gave that guy at the bar the other night, but gosh, if I sat at the bar with, a team executive, people would be talking. And it really started working. And I think the mutual respect really started coming out. So to have that confidence, I'm not there to be their friend. If that happens, that's great. But on the other hand, sometimes you have to ask the obvious.
There are so many young girls, college students who might be watching this and say, wow, I want to be a sports reporter one day. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to do your homework. Number one, find someone that you enjoy watching and look at don't try to be them. It's like the old Mary Tyler Moore, Ted Baxter. Don't try to be that typical, news anchor, but look at the little things that they do. Look at their writing, look at how they transition from talking to an interviewee to talking to the people back home in the audience, the news anchors. I think it's the little things. It's really the details. You're never going to out-knowledge everybody. There are so few people that do that, especially today in this day and age. Everyone has access to information. You have to find something that makes you unique and that the audience finds you unique and enjoyable at the same time. That is really it. And really just like, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
We appreciate your time and your incredible stories.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thanks, you guys. And thank you for doing this on National Girls and Women in Sports Day. It's wonderful.
Of course.
Great job by both of you.
Thank you. Still to come on Chicago Sports Tonight, a former Northwestern women's basketball player is creating a space dedicated to growing women's sports. We head to Wrigleyville to check out the spot when we come back on Chicago Sports Tonight. We all know Wrigleyville is a hub for Cubs fans and sports bars.
But one bar is putting an emphasis on women's sports when it opens this spring.
I took a visit to Clark Street to visit the new Level Sporting Club and see how it's reshaping what Wrigleyville can offer. All right, we are now at 3343 North Clark in the heart of Wrigleyville, and I am joined with Clarissa Flores. She is the founder of Level Sporting Club, which is going to be opening in late April, right in the midst of baseball season. But your focus is on women's sports, opening a hub to watch all the great women's sports that not only Chicago is embracing right now, but really the entire country is.
Yeah, I mean, the momentum for women's sports has been here for years and years. I recall playing in high school here at Whitney Young High School, and we're talking almost 30 years ago, and I played in front of 7,000 people. People are like, oh, the momentum's here now. No, the momentum's been here, but what we didn't have is this infrastructure, right? So now we have spaces like a Level Sporting Club where we're building infrastructure where people can come, support, join, watch women's sports, and call a place, home for women's sports.
Why is it important to be in Wrigleyville? It's a neighborhood that is obviously the Cubs dominate, but what kind of market did you see here to open up to a different clientele?
Sure. So Wrigleyville, there's a men's sports bar, on every 10 feet. Yeah, every 10 feet there's a men's sports bar here. And this is the entertainment corridor of Chicago. So why not? If you look at the demographic, 57% of the demographic in Wrigleyville, Lakeview East, is women, and that's what we're catering to. We're catering to the women that support women. So, being the entertainment corridor of Chicago, why not? We belong here. Why is there not a women's sports bar in the area? So we need something for us.
When you look at this space, you mentioned infrastructure. Like, I'm sure you've closed your eyes and you've envisioned what this is going to look like come the end of April.
Yeah.
What is your vision?
Yeah, so I can't take all the credit for it. I have an amazing designer, Candace, who's like, Clarissa, listen, I support what you're doing. I want to come in and help. So she gave me some phenomenal ideas. We have an awesome mood board. It's going to be comfortable. It's going to be homey. It's going to be a place where you walk in and you want to stay. It's not going to be like too modern or anything like that. Chicago sports bars are institutions. So I wanted this to feel like a Chicago sports bar, but for women. So yeah, we're definitely going to have, we're going to reface the entire bar with, black subway tile, redo the floors, redo the bars, comfortable colors, red velvet, Level Sporting Club colors and things of that nature. But it's going to be homey.
How did you come up with the name?
Level. So the obvious reason, right? Level Sporting Club. We are here to level the playing field for women's sports. That is my mission. My mission is to bring women's sports the visibility that it deserves, that it's deserved for years on end. And we're finally trying to catch up.
All right, so we were talking about this space earlier, and you said this is going to be more of the sports bar area.
Yeah.
You got the bar, you got the TVs, but you actually have a downstairs too that I want to check out as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. All right, now we're in the downstairs area, which you mentioned you want to turn into more of like a moody cocktail vibe lounge area. So what are you envisioning down here?
Yeah, definitely a comfortable, speakeasy, loungy vibe down here. We've got some couches that we're going to put in the area. We've got a piano that's going in the corner right over there. We've got amazing talent that's coming that performs all around the city. They're going to perform here on a weekly basis. So just think, comfortable, sofa, loungy, piano type vibe down here, like a true Chicago, bar in the area.
I want to get into your background a little bit because you mentioned you went to Whitney Young High School. You played basketball at Northwestern.
Yeah.
How important is it for you to create this community around women's sports in your hometown as well?
Oh God, it's just an amazing moment. For me, it's always been about culture and community. My whole career and everything that I've done has been based off of culture and community. So again, having this moment and being able to live in this moment to me is so special. And especially having the team that I built around me, the team of investors that I have, they're all women that are lived in sports, played in sports, head coach of UIC women's basketball, NFL coach Jennifer King, who coached the Bears and was one of the coaches of the Commanders. So to me, it was important to build not only a community of investors behind me, for the community of women's sports followers, but having my background in hospitality for almost 2 decades, so many people wanted to invest in this project. But for me, it was important that I had a team of women with me, pushing the progress forward in women's sports.
It is National Girls and Women's in Sports Day, so we're doing this huge show around it. Like, what does it mean to you to be a former athlete and to still invest and pour into the next generation and also people who just want to admire it from afar?
Yeah. Well, National Girls and Women in Sports Day, for me, it's twofold. It's definitely honoring the women before And it's a current call to action, right? It is the moment where, again, which I mentioned earlier, is building that infrastructure, building that support for women's sports. So it is a call for action for all of us. You know, people always ask, how can we support you? How can we support women's sports? Well, just show up. You know, show up, support, whether it's you're having a glass of water, giving women the visibility that they need and that they deserve. It's just about showing up.
When you were playing college basketball, did you ever imagine or think there would be a time where the WNBA is reaching record numbers of viewerships, where NWSL has become a powerhouse in women's sports, and all of these other women's professional leagues are becoming notable to society, really?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. And the reason for that is because when I was playing, I knew I was not going to make a career out of this. So for me, I'll go to Northwestern, I'll get my Northwestern degree, and I'll do something entrepreneurial. Just because I knew sports wasn't going to be a career for me because the opportunity wasn't there. And being, again, the day that it is today is the opportunity for those little girls or the former me when I was in college and in high school to dream big, because now you can make a career out of it. You know, you can get paid off of it. The NI deals, some of these NI deals, the top 10 NIL deals, 4 of them were girls. So yeah, I mean, the opportunity to dream big is now.
Clarissa Flores, thank you so much for your time and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this special National Girls and Women in Sports edition of Chicago Sports Tonight.
And make sure to come back tomorrow as we wrap up the NBA trade deadline. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.